Hi, everyone. My name's Greg Knight.
I'm Ricardo Avila.
It's time to update our Take 2 promo, and so we've broken out our Gen Z slang machine for Ricardo once again so that he can communicate with the kids.
I hate this.
I know you do. Here we go. The first 100 episodes of our podcast were very different from what we do now.
Those episodes are Ohio AF. You're Delulu if you think anyone stands those pods. You may as well just yeet those things out of here, no cap.
You're right, but we don't want to eliminate our show history. We want to improve it by going back into the raw audio while updating our quality.
That's the vibe. Like you're gonna flex those old pods with a bougie glow up. That low-key slaps, fam. Because right now they're pretty chugi. Good lord.
Scroll down. Okay. Listen, culture evolves over time, and our spin-off pod, Take 2, gives us the chance to go back and evolve our old podcast right along with it.
That's a bar, chat. I think this idea is pretty lit. It beats having a big yikes sitting in our archives. You gotta bling those things out with some fresh drip if you want that new subs riz, period. God, no wonder the youth are struggling. Go ahead.
So listen to Take 2 in the Popping Collars feed and hear our past selves grow before your very ears.
Yeah, these pods are bussin'. You got a dub with this, plus 1,000 aura. This idea is giving. You ate.
I wonder what would happen if we changed the slang machine to the millennial setting.
Get in, loser. We're going podcasting.
Okay, that makes sense.
Was that the first time you'd met Taylor?
Yeah, it's fairly new, so I don't like to talk about it. It's just one of those things where, obviously everybody saw me. I was in the boxes with her, and it's just another thing that's amped up my life.
Yeah, what was she like? What was it? So you got to know her a little bit. You got to sit with a couple games. How was it?
It was okay.
Yeah. we both met her, and we've always sort of just been delighted by her way.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Popping Collars, the podcast that lives at the intersection of faith, religion, / whatever you want to call it, and popular culture. My name is Betsy Carmody, and I'm here in beautiful Alexandria, Virginia, where we're having summer one day and winter the next, because that is what spring is like in the DMV. But I'm joined here by my co-hosts. So happy to see all of them, no matter what weather pattern they're in. Let's begin. We'll go around the order of my screen. Let's start with Ricardo.
Hey!
How are you, Ricardo?
Hi, Betsy.
Hi.
Betsy, I am doing all right. I am putting on the happy voice, despite being a little tired, feeling my age. I'm going to be 60 this year. 60.
No way.
Isn't it?
No way.
However, I want you all to know, we were, before we started recording, we were playing with the Zoom settings, and we did the one where like all your wrinkles disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I turned it off. I without saying anything, I feel like my wrinkles are still gone.
You still look
You
good.
don't have
You
wrinkles.
It's like a Black Mirror episode or something.
Maybe
Yeah.
you just don't have wrinkles.
Exactly.
Maybe.
You may just
Right.
be wrinkle-free.
59 baby bottom. 59-year-old baby's bottom face. Anyway, is that too much?
No.
Okay.
No,
All
No,
right.
that's
never.
perfectly in keeping with our podcast.
So I'm doing well. My name is Ricardo Avila. I am the rector of maybe not for long, the rector of St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Los Gatos, California, where it is in fact rather sunny. It's in the low to mid 70s, and it does not snow the next day. I think the worst is it gets down to 45. And, things are going well. I don't have too much to say. I don't want to say too much because I'll start thinking too much about things. So things are good. 60 will be good. Part 2 of sabbatical is this year. What I'm exactly doing is somewhat in flux given the changes and chances of the world these days, including very expensive flights and driving around the United States with brown skin. So these things are yet to be unfolded, are yet to unfold.
I love it. It's like you're almost 60 and that's the temperature and everything is just, it's very California. Like that works on all. I mean, look at him. Look at him. Let's go over here to Liz Easton. Liz, how you doing?
Hey, Betsy. I'm doing well. Similar to where I'm Liz Easton. I'm the canon to the ordinary in the Diocese of Nebraska. I live in Omaha, where we're also having spring one day, winter the next. At the time of this recording, we're in the thick of Lent.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, my Lenten discipline has been to give up single-use plastic. And I'm just here to tell you guys, it's really hard and I'm really proud of myself. And it's been like daily, everything has changed.
Wow.
Just think about the plastic.
What's the biggest change? What's the biggest thing? What am I not thinking of? What am I not
The
thinking
grocery store, food packaging.
So what I'm buying. Okay. So like the container the strawberries come.
Yep.
Oh, so like
Yeah, so
my
everything.
Trader Joe's like microwave meals and stuff.
Yep.
Wow.
Does it count if you buy those things and then use them for something else? Is that okay?
I think that would be okay if you really did use them for something else.
Yeah, but that's hard.
That is hard.
Man, it's like she's calling you out. You didn't even do anything.
Well, it was hard for me. And this is like classic me. Okay. I hate to even say this out loud. Our office, we use K-cups for coffee.
Oh,
okay. I know.
Yeah.
And that was what was haunting.
The podcast is over. We're shutting it down.
But now I've been canceled. I was haunted by a documentary I watched where like I learned that things, well, you throw those away, but that even the plastic that you recycle doesn't really get recycled. And I was haunted by this. I was haunted by the K-cups. Now, a reasonable person would just give that up for Lent. Just the K.
No more K-cups. No more. Yeah.
But no, not Liz Easton. I have to go big or go home. And I really didn't think it through, and it's been really hard. But it's been an invitation to cook differently, buy differently, eat differently. It's mainly been at the grocery store where I've noticed it. Because I don't, it's easy to keep yourself from buying other things. But you got to eat. Girls got to eat.
Right, because I'm just thinking about lettuces alone. Like, does it change like the entire venue where you shop? Have you moved like stores?
I'm at Whole Foods. I have a lot of like reusable bags for produce and stuff. And then I'm eating more meat, which I don't, I'm just one little old person. So I don't eat that much to begin with. But, they have a butcher counter that wraps in paper. I'm not bragging. I'm more just saying.
But I'm just trying to like imagine like a big bin of blueberries or like a big bin.
Yeah, there's no blueberries.
That does not exist. Strawberries. No, you got to go. You know what? You got to go pick your own. You're going to have to pick your own.
I know, but it's March.
I know it's March in Nebraska. You're in trouble.
Oh, man.
I know.
Liz, I picture you like going up to the Whole Foods deli and be like, can I just get half a pound of that potato salad and just put it in my hand?
That's exactly right.
It's right here.
Put it in my hand.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Actually, I can make a bowl with my shirt and you can put it in my shirt here.
Well, when you're just one person, it is a little hard. Like, can I have a 6-ounce steak? Like, can I have, so anyway, it's fine. Everything's fine, but it's been an interesting Lent. Thank you. I think some of it I will continue into the future.
Liz,
cool.
I and this isn't to say like this is not an endorsement in any way, shape, or form, but isn't it like one of RFK Jr.'s initiatives to get like glass bottles for like drinks and stuff like that as a way of like eliminating plastic and stuff?
And that's more about health, about his concern and many people's concerns of consuming microplastics, which that's a whole other thing. So I live in an apartment, but in Omaha, they don't recycle glass. You have to take your glass to a recycling center.
Oh, okay.
So now I'm using more glass, including like, this isn't good for the budget. Okay. Like I bought an $11 glass jar of yogurt.
Oh,
that's insane. But anyway, I'll have to recycle that glass. So now I'm collecting and washing glass that I'll have to take to the thing. And it's a little complicated. But RFK's issue is with microplastics in the food that we eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a straight up middle of the road American on all this. I can't. I've got too much anxiety about so much else in my life.
Yeah.
I can't. I just grab and go and then toss it. And yeah, like K cups and all that.
It's been a good Lenten discipline in the sense that like I'm noticing things. And then when Lent is over, some things I'll probably retain and some things I won't. But it does feel kind of like little sacrifices daily, which I like to do for Lent.
Sounds like an essay
Whenever you-
collection waiting to happen. Little sacrifices daily.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like them.
the miserable life of Elizabeth Easton. Let's just make things harder.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Reese
Exactly.
Every
Witherspoon
day
would
can-
definitely option
Yeah.
that. Little sacrifices daily.
Yes, little sacrifice. Yeah, just like little fires everywhere.
Yeah.
Million
Right.
little pieces.
Daily
Yeah,
reasons for Liz to feel bad about herself.
Mhm.
That would be the subtitle of my memoir. Let's make life harder. Just
all right, we got to move off this. Greg, bring us back up. What's going on?
I kind of feel like we should stay here, but
Wait, I have one thing to say real quick about this. So
5 hours later.
And scene.
Greg.
All right, Greg.
oh, Betsy, Greg Knight down here in South Florida. You know what it is, Betsy? It's another day.
What is it? It's
another day.
It is.
And another
Yes.
day means another dollar.
Oh.
And for this guy, another dollar is coming from a new job.
New job, new job. Here we go. Very exciting.
So my name is Greg Knight. I'm still down here in South Florida, but I am now going to be working as a chaplain for our local hospice care facility called Trust Bridge Hospice Care. You're looking at the new chaplain on the chaplain team. Spiritual
Yay!
bravo.
This is a little bittersweet because, you know, I had been working for the Unitarian Universalist Church in town for the last year and a half. Wonderful people. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed my time there and absolutely can't wait to see like the amazing things that they have planned. But, you know, over the last 5 years or so, especially after I started doing adult education as part of my work, adult education and formation, coming out of COVID, so much of where I've found my energy and ministry is in storytelling, meaning making, processing life through honest, real conversations with people. And that's what I get to do for a living now. So new job. That's my big thing.
Well, Greg, we're really excited for you. I last chaplained with you in the summer of 2009. And look at all the life experiences you've had since then.
Wow.
It's going to be so great.
Pretty crazy.
What a privilege. So, my friends, welcome to our annual Pop Swap episode to offer Recs. I mean, this is now, you all should know we do this a little bit before all of our episodes, whether it's a book or a movie or whatever it is that we've been watching. But this is where we get to be really intentional with the people on this podcast and in our round robin style, recommend something maybe not too onerous, but something that maybe is a blind spot for one of our friends here to bring that into the podcast in a different way. So we've all assigned something to someone, and we've all gone off and had an experience. Not all of them are as terrible as the Strawberry Mansion thing that Greg made me watch several years ago. You can go back and watch that, listen to it. Do not watch it. Do
that
not.
movie's actually
It's,
really great. You should watch it.
Oh my God. Stop it. But Greg, who are we going to hear from first? And how are we going to do this? Are you drawing the person who recommended? Are you drawing the person who's talking about what was recommended to them? What is our format?
That's great. I love this, Betsy, because you know what? I love rules. And I like that you're asking me what the rules of this.
I want to know because I don't want to mess it up.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach into our bag. It is well with my soul. I'm going to pull out a name, which I have right here. And that person is going to talk about what they were given.
Got it.
And then the next person will be the person who gave that thing.
So this is only one draw for the
Only one
whole.
chip.
The bag
So
is
it's
gone.
just one draw. So
Wow.
I'm just reaching into the bag once. I'm just pulling out
Wow.
one name.
Love it.
And the one name I pulled out is G for Gregory. Wow.
Okay.
So I get to kick us off by talking about what I was given. I was recommended from Liz Easton, the Canons of the Ordinary of the Diocese of Nebraska. She recommended that I watch a documentary on Netflix called Secret Mall Apartment.
Artists set up an apartment inside Providence Place Mall, going undetected for years.
We all hated the mall when it went up, right? Nobody wanted that to happen.
Shortly after, a developer comes in and says, I'm going to knock down your home.
I just had this idea. Oh, we should live in the mall.
It seemed like a very absurd fantasy and perhaps a great challenge. When the mall was being built, I saw a space that I could not figure out what it would be used for. We went looking for that anomaly in the architecture, and we snuck ourselves in there, and we took out our flashlights. And there it was. It started the conversation immediately.
We need to develop this underutilized space.
There was a real necessity to build a wall there.
It was like 5,000 pounds of cinder blocks.
It's important to emphasize there's this underlying sense of dread that we're going to get caught at any time.
Wow. So what is it? Is it a prank? Is it a work of art? Is it a social experiment?
It was like this alternate universe that's within the real world.
It talks about gentrification, capitalism, everything being commodified.
The apartment was the side project to the other stuff.
We were like a little elite strike force team of empathetic artists.
Such a magic thing to take a space from the mall.
So, this impoverished area that the mall is sort of encroaching on, it was the home for several of the artists that lived in Providence. This was like where they would live, where they would do their artwork, all of this stuff, right? And so as the city is starting to move more and more into their territory, and as real estate is getting bought up in their territory, and these buildings are being knocked down in order to build up new things like condos or businesses or something like that, the mall becomes basically like this metaphor for like the changing dynamics of the city itself and how corporate interests are sort of encroaching on their artistic way of life. Michael Townsend, he's sort of the chief architect of this project of like building this apartment in this mall. And he gets sort of a group of his friends together, along with like his then wife. They find sort of like a recess of the mall that was part of the construction, but nobody really knows about it. Like the security and the mall owners and stuff like that, they don't really know that this area exists. And they start furnishing it. And at the end of the day, the real sort of like moral question of the secret mall apartment is this an artistic display or are they just trespassing in the mall? Now, here's the thing. And this is, as we get into this, I'm going to ask you like why you recommended this, Liz. But this is one of those documentaries that in my mind, I'm thinking that it should be talking about something different than what the maker of the documentary wants to talk about, which is fascinating because I'm watching the movie and I'm trying to like pull out conclusions from it about capitalism, gentrification. Like I'm thinking of like all of these things, but the documentarian, the person making this film, is really sort of more concerned about this group of friends and about sort of what is art is kind of their perspective on the entire thing. And so as I'm watching it, I'm really like, what really stood out to me the whole time I'm watching it is like wanting a documentary to be about a certain thing, but having to accept that the documentary is about what the person making the documentary wanted to talk about. And it's like, it's that sort of tension, that kind of push pull of like your desire to steer the story in a particular way, but the story that you're given is something totally different. So yeah, Secret Mall Apartment, that was kind of my takeaways from it. But Liz, what drew you to Secret Mall Apartment and wanted to recommend it?
I watched it like the day after we recorded last when I knew that I had to assign you something. So it was partly like, I'm going to get on this. But I saw a trailer for this documentary in the theaters, like maybe more than a year ago. And I was captivated. I was like, I want to see that. And then it never came here. And when I saw that it was on Netflix, I was really psyched. I think it is a commentary on capitalism, but you're right that they're not heavy handed about that. One of the reasons that I thought it was interesting and that I recommended it to you and would to anyone like about our age is it's the first time that I've seen a documentary using historic footage from a time that I was an adult. Like, it's not even like I was a child. Like, yeah, I was a literal adult. And one thing I realized watching that is like the early 2000s was not great aesthetically. It was not a very
Speak for yourself, Liz. Speak for yourself.
At least not in Rhode Island.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Right. It's interesting, like these artists, they're real artists. Like the guy who's sort of in the head of this is a professor at RISD. Like that's where they all meet. I myself have, especially when I was younger, spent a lot of times in like art collectives, in those big group homes where people lived in squalor and then had punk rock shows at night. Like that is familiar to me. What distinguished this group from people I have known over the years is how incredibly wholesome they are. And they really self-identify through other art that they do as a collective as altruists in like the truest sense. They do really great projects around like in children's hospitals.
Yeah, the
and they
murals.
Did a big they
the
did a big
tape art.
9/11 mural project. Yeah. So that was interesting. So I mainly just kind of thought it was a slice of life deal. And it was interesting because it was a documentary about like our lifetimes, which I feel like we're just getting to that age, you know, and this was maybe the first time that I've been exposed to something like that. It was part of why I found it interesting.
Yeah, and to that point, you know, this is the early 2000s. So this is pre-social media as we've come to know it. So this idea of like documenting your life is still really kind of unusual and odd. And so like Liz is saying, there's historical footage, but it's footage that these people are taking, like they're filming themselves
from their little Nikon camera.
Yeah. So it's like so you get to see like the construction of this apartment. It's really weird to think of like people filming themselves in the early 2000s, but it's almost like they knew that they were going to, you know, 20 years later make a documentary about this. And so we need to like get footage, you know, that kind of thing. It's really odd to like sort of see it come together.
I mean, and there's also enough, and it's raw enough that I'm like, this Michael kid, he is annoying.
Yeah.
Like there's enough going on there that I'm like, being in a relationship with this guy.
Yeah, his wife
like knowing
him.
that they're no longer together. Like
right.
It's enough of kind of life is art is life that I'm like, yeah, I'm totally down with this, right? Like they're just starting with a project of could we live in the mall for a week? Is this place vast enough? And as long as, and I love that they talk about their privilege, the fact that they're able to get away with what they get away with because they're white.
They're all white. Yeah.
Right. So we can be carrying cinder blocks upstairs and setting alarms off in parking decks.
Right. And
but because we're white,
be busted
we can
by
talk to security. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That we can talk it up with security. And we're like, you know, And even the idea, I think all of us know where malls have kind of gone now, the idea of building a giant mall in the late 90s.
Malls are those places now.
I'm like, that feels late. That feels really late.
That's
like,
what I thought too.
No.
Yeah.
oh no, there's only so many Build-A-Bear workshops that are going to be able to help you out here, right? But I really felt for the folks who had moved into the old mills and they had, a great financial deal and they were able to make art, make music, and do all those sorts of things. And then suddenly everyone was like, oh no, these can be strip malls and that. But when they talked about that there were no entrances to the mall in the neighborhoods around the mall itself, that it was like, oh, this isn't for us.
Right.
Fascinating.
And that was the thing. Yeah. It was like, it was sort of, it felt like a desperate political ploy from like the mayor of like, how do we get people to come to Providence? Maybe we make like a Mall of America adjacent kind of thing, right? And that'll be like the definer of our city. And it felt to me like the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, oh my God, that's a story, right? Because that's like corruption and chasing fads for thinking that you're going to get long-term gain, but really you're just going to get like money into corrupt people's pockets and stuff like that. And I think in America, we have to insist that our artists like somehow be like corporatized or like, graphic designers that can make our websites or, filmmakers that can make our entertainment, or something like we force them into these kind of capitalist bubbles. And in reality, I don't think real artists really think that way. They don't think in terms of like, what do I get out of this? They think in terms of like, I need to make something and here's me making something,
Right.
And if it happens to be inside of your mall, so be it.
All right. So now, Liz, you're up.
It's my turn. Okay. So Ricardo was the one who recommended for me on this edition of the Pop Swap. And he knows, I think, that I've not watched a lot of old movies. This is similar to what he did to Betsy a few years ago.
Twice.
I needed it. He's done to me twice.
Well, so did I. And so Ricardo sent me a list of like maybe 6 films and said, just watch the first one that you haven't seen. Well, of course, the first one was the first one that I hadn't seen. And that was the wonderful 1950 film noir classic Sunset Boulevard.
Wow.
I had never seen it before. And let me tell you a brief synopsis of the film. So we're in Los Angeles, California. 1950, which is a really cool part of watching the movie. Is just seeing what LA looked. LA is a great character in this movie, as is the Paramount film lot. There's a guy who his name is Billy. It was directed by Billy Wilder. His name is Joe Gillis. Okay. And he is a movie script writer who is not having a lot of success. He like lives in this apartment. He's can't pay the rent. His car is about to be repossessed. He's out on the road, outrunning the repo man, gets a flat tire, pulls into a big old Hollywood mansion on Sunset Boulevard that's a little dilapidated. The butler comes out and he's like, come inside. The butler, by the way, I forget his name, but to me, he was like the best actor in the whole movie, the best character. He was really very good. But anyway, the butler's like, come inside. He comes inside and there is this woman there who is an old Hollywood star, Norma Desmond, and she's played by Gloria Swanson. He quickly discovers that she was like a major star of the silent film era, but she's 50 years old now. So that's too old. You're dead to Hollywood at 50. That's true today to some extent. It was certainly true that she's living in this big mansion, which is sort of a shrine to herself. And she's writing a screenplay and she needs his help. He starts helping her write the screenplay. He just thinks he's going to like help her one afternoon, drink some champagne. Well, she is a pretty intense woman and she tries to take her own life at one point. He is sort of moved by the vulnerability of that. And in kind of a moment of confusing weakness, he basically becomes her kept man. And he lives in this mansion with her while she entertains this fantasy of returning to the screen that she believes that Cecil B. DeMille will direct her in a film. And he falls in love with this other woman. He has to confess to her that he's a kept man. It's not good for his self-esteem, but he's getting all this stuff, clothes, jewelry, a free place to live, a car to drive, but it's morally compromising for him. Meanwhile, Norma Desmond is just going off the rails, and she is like, she's a really intense character. She's kind of always acting. She's very dramatic. She's incredibly vain, and she's like incredibly in love with him, desperately, creepily in love with him.
Here's to us. You know, this floor used to be wood, but I had it changed. Valentino said there's nothing like tile for a tango. Come on.
Not on the same floor with Valentino.
Just follow me.
It's 10:15. What time are they supposed to get here?
Who?
The other guests.
There are no other guests. We don't want to share this night with other people.
And I won't give the ending away, but it's pretty tragic. Pretty tragic. And the very last scene, Norma Desmond has pretty much lost it. She's having like a psychotic break, and she believes that she is in the film again. So this is where the famous line, "Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up," comes from at the very end. And that is the story of Sunset Boulevard without giving away the major thing that happens, even though you'll know it from the very first scene of the film.
I know. I was about to say Billy Wilder gives it away at the beginning of the movie.
That's true.
It's the very first scene. Yeah, that's me. That's me.
Yeah. Yeah, the very first scene, that is an excellent point. Joe Gillis is dead in a swimming pool. And so he is also the narrator of the film From Beyond the Grave, which is a little, it's a little weird, but it's helpful to have a narrator. You forget we don't make a lot of films with voiceover narration anymore. In fact, I can't tell you the last time I saw it, but he's really good.
Well, he's played by William Holden.
He's pretty hot. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say he's not super hot in the face, but at one point he gets out of a swimming pool and you're like, hello. Which led me down a really sad rabbit hole about his life, which we don't need to get into, but very, very, very sad. And anyway, that's Sunset Boulevard. I think there's a lot of takeaways. Ricardo, tell me why did you recommend it? Why was it first on the list?
Liz, first of all, I before I forget, I wanted the other quote from the movie that's kind of famous is, she was in silent pictures, right? Mm-hmm. And someone says to her about her not being famous anymore. And she says, "I'm big. It's the pictures that got small."
Yeah.
It's great. So, interestingly enough, I remember when I saw this movie, I was dating my very first love, Rami, in Madison, Wisconsin. It was late at night. I was at his apartment. I couldn't sleep. I went into the kitchen. It's like a galley kitchen. They had a little TV in there, and I just turned it on. This is back when you turn the channels. And it was the beginning of Sunset Boulevard. And I was just transfixed by that opening scene. Yeah. The guy lying in the pool. Yeah, that's me in the pool there, and blah, blah, blah. And I watched the entire thing standing up in that kitchen galley at midnight, and I loved it. And so it's just always kind of been a favorite. It's so, I don't know what to call it. It's so different than other movies. Mm-hmm. It's got all this, it's noir, but it's also like a history of Hollywood. Erich von Stroheim plays the butler, and he's a famous German director.
He's fantastic.
And Buster Keaton has a cameo where they come and play cards, and he is a faded silent film star as well. I mean, plays one. And they call themselves something as a group. That group, the Forgotten Ones.
The Wax something.
The Wax Museum or the Wax Figures or something.
Yeah.
And so
does Cecil B. DeMille play himself? I don't.
Yes.
So he and the Max, the butler. One of the things I noticed, and I feel this way when I watch a lot of old movies, is that the acting is not what I'm used to with acting. It's not, and I think that has to do with lighting and cameras and microphones. It's just about the technology that you don't get a lot of nuance. And those two men, who are both playing directors, brought so much pathos and feeling and empathy, like in their faces, and their like they were the best actors of the whole film, I thought.
And it's so campy. Like I love the
very
camp.
camp.
And
Yeah,
oh
it's
my
very
gosh.
camp.
Okay, I am a Billy Wilder guy. Like, I think that his stuff is just so ahead of its time. Like The Apartment, Sunset Boulevard, like all of these things. Some Like It Hot. I just think that all of these movies are just so like he understood Marilyn Monroe in a way that like I don't think anybody else did. He's such a really gifted filmmaker, but it's like it's almost like he couldn't be appreciated at the time that he was making films. It was like you needed to give it like a few years and then you would understand what he was making. And Sunset Boulevard in my mind is like the A plus version of something like The Player, which is actually like a C plus movie compared to this. You know, it's like it understands Hollywood and how to communicate Hollywood in such a better way than like our clumsy fumbling like 30 years later. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm a huge fan of Sunset Boulevard, and especially Billy Wilder as like an artist and a director. Yeah.
Liz, I mean, like, there's something about the language. It's like a jaded movie in a way. There's like a jadedness, like the friends that he has, and he goes to the parties where they're all drinking and they're all kind of sarcastic, and it's just like you're right. It's like a whole window into a time. It's like they weren't like all staid and wearing their suits. They were,
No, and he's in the midst of he's in this weird in between place, and he's having a real moral crisis, and yet he keeps doing what he knows he shouldn't do, and it ends up costing him not just his life but like a chance at love. And it's just one of those weird things like where you take a wrong turn, and it's almost like he fell through the looking glass.
Well, and there are elements too where it kind of like borders on being like a monster movie. Where Norma Desmond is the monster, right?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's like
That kind of lighting, the way the lighting
the
is
shadows.
happening.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a scene where she like pulls his hair or something. Don't you make me do something like kind of violent, creepy. Right on. So you liked it?
I loved it. And I don't watch movies that often, like whole movies. I'm really like a limited series girl. It was great for my attention span. It was great for my imagination. And it really is like, and I don't always feel this way about old movies. It was like a feast of the eyes. Like the sets were incredible. The costumes, like I said, the Los Angeles thing, but even just the set of her home was beautifully designed, like kind of fascinating to watch. It was very, what's the word when you like really are in it?
Immersive.
Immersive. It was very immersive. Yeah. Loved it.
Yay.
So thank you for the recommendation.
I think I'm 3 for 3 with these old movie recs, eh, Bets?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, but I mean, your recs have been like Casablanca, Sunset Boulevard, and North by Northwest. Like, I mean, these are classics.
It's low-hanging fruit, but you never picked it before. That's the thing.
That's right. It's the blind spots. It's the things that you're like, oh yeah, I know scene, this scene, that scene. I get it. No, you got to watch it.
No.
Well, speaking of blind spots, I will go next. I was given 2 episodes of a podcast by Betsy, and the podcast is called "We're Here to Help," and it's Jake Johnson and Gareth Reynolds. So Jake Johnson was mentioned earlier. He's one of the New Girl cast members. Never seen an episode, but seen enough pictures of
It's funny,
cast.
Ricardo. That's a funny show. Truly funny.
There are 2 like cute guys on that show, and I don't know.
There are 3 cute guys on that show. Sometimes 4.
Well, there we are. So he's on it. And then the other guy, I don't know, Gareth Reynolds, but my sense was he's a stand-up comedian who tours. And so Betsy assigned me 2 episodes. And basically the premise, and Betsy, you're going to help me out here because I didn't do any back research, but
that's okay.
It's basically you call in. First of all, you write in, then you call in, and you have a strange problem that you need advice on, and you want to figure out what to do about it. And so these two guys basically pitch you ideas, and and the caller has to agree to try one to fix their problem, to solve their problem.
Yeah, she's right here.
Yeah, throw her on. I got to ask her a quick question.
Hello.
Hey, how are you? Can we get your name, please?
Good. Amber.
Amber, quick question. Whose idea is it to leave the bathroom door open around your fiance while you guys are taking dumps?
Well, have you smelled him? It's got to air out. And the dogs like to join him.
That is Jake.
Wait, hold on,
Jake,
Amber.
Is there a worse answer?
You guys are perfect for each other.
Is there a worse answer than what just happened?
No.
Spread the smell wealth because the dogs need to hang out in there?
Do you have just pitching, do you have a window in the bathroom?
It's a great call, Jake.
We do. It's in the shower.
Okay, hey, Amps. Let's do this.
It's in the shower.
It's okay.
Quit saying it's in the shower like it makes your policy okay. What are you talking about?
Agreed, but we're not going to drill
But
that.
Jake, we really, I mean, these kids are lucky they found us.
Crazy. They need us. You guys need us more than anyone's ever needed us.
It's just this. Even the dogs are furious.
The dogs like,
we don't want to hang out in there.
The shower window.
It's torture.
You know why the dogs go in that bathroom, Amber? They're trying to open the shower window.
The 2 episodes I was given, I believe each had 3 stories, 3 callers, right? So the first episode is called Your Fourth Favorite Spider-Man. Now, so here's the thing. These 2 guys, they're just bantering back and forth. I didn't know who was who from the voices. And one of them apparently voiced a Spider-Man situation in an animated, the Spider-Verse movie. I am so not into, I don't know these things, right? So was that Jake Johnson who was the Spider person?
I don't know. I don't know their full bios in that way either, which is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're basically the show is them bantering off of the situation they're trying to fix. So this woman calls in and she wants to throw a bachelorette party for her friend. And they want to do a Spider-Man theme because the friend grew up loving Spider-Man. She just loved Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire was her favorite. So they go back and forth and they give her an idea. I mean, I'm not going to, I actually want to talk about one of the ones in the first episode and then one of the ones in the other one. So the 3 stories in the fourth favorite Spider-Man are the bachelorette party with the Spider-Man situation. A young couple who move into a house and like 2 doors down is an 80-year-old man who's like an artist and he wants to paint them. So they send him a photo and he paints this like 3 by 2 foot painting of them and then wants them to pay for it. They loved it. They're like, you know what? We'll buy it. So this is your solution. Tell them a friend in Los Angeles is really interested, and so you sold it to them, right? And it's apparently the couple in like the middle of an ocean, like the Pacific Ocean, and it's all very abstract with a lighthouse in the corner. So it's just absurd, right? The situations are strange because they don't want to be mean to this guy. They're like, we never asked for him to do this. And then the third one is the one I sort of want to talk about a little bit. A young woman and her husband. Wait, how does this go? Her father, this woman's father, was a construction guy like years ago. And in breaking down a wall in a house, he found inside like a glass case filled with these old creepy dolls. They're all like
that's why I chose this episode. This is why I chose this one. Yes.
1930s dolls, and they're like all kind of within this plexiglass case. And so he gifts it to his daughter, who's the caller, and she grows up, I don't know, she grows up with it or something, but she gets married and the husband won't let her display it, so it has to be in the basement. Well, her thing is, how do I get him to let me display it? And so they go around with these ideas, but just the descriptions of the dolls are hilarious. They just sound
Ginger Picnic
and Big Fat Baby.
Yeah, Big Fat Baby were the 2 that they, yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a horror movie setup. Oh, he found this inside a wall, buried, and they're all kind of attached in the case by their necks. They're like, whatever you do, do not release them from their neck. So they come to a conference. There's a cat room in the house that only the cat goes into, I guess. And so we'll hang it there. And, you have to pitch it to the husband, this whole business. But so to me, the best part was the situations themselves. And then the second episode that Betsy had me listen to is called Forest Dump. And they have a third person come on the show named Pete Holmes. I don't know who he is, but he does voices, and he's from Milwaukee, which is my hometown.
Yeah.
So the three of them, this guy calls in, and this is Liz. You're not going to like this because it's kind of butt stuff. But
that's okay.
There's some butt stuff.
So apparently, this guy calls in. He works in an office. He has a very set time that he uses the bathroom after lunch every day, and it happens to be the exact same time where twice a week his coworker in the next carousel goes in and brushes his teeth. And for some reason, I've never thought of this. The guy who's sitting in the toilet thinks this guy's basically brushing himself with my particles. And so how do I let him know? And sorry, Liz is like vomiting into her shirt sleeve. And I don't know. What's the problem there? Because I don't know. It happens. It's a bathroom. But apparently it was a thing. And so they're trying to help him figure out how to let the guy know. But the other big story on the second episode is this woman lives in Nashville in this little kind of cul-de-sac-y place. And they have all these feral cats in the area. And she sort of is a cat. She loves animals. So she winds up letting a few of them come into her house. She props the door open all night. The guys are like, no, what are you doing?
It's crazy.
Burglars, what they're not saying is someone's going to come in and kill you, right? Like Murderland. But she's like, oh, no, blah, blah, blah. Well, then apparently a possum gets in and wreaks havoc. And the funny thing is, like, you hear all this thing about possums. I guess when possums see a human, they freeze. Like, they get so scared they freeze. And you can't,
they fake die. Yeah.
She doesn't want the possum, but she likes the cats coming in, and they're like, close the door. So they figure out that she should train the cats to jump up onto a window and leave the window open slightly because a possum can't jump that high. Of course, I'm reading Murderland and thinking, frickin' lock the door.
And don't do that either.
The door. Yeah.
I know, because the cats apparently meow loudly if they're not let in, right? They don't want to live there. They don't want to stay in. They want to be out, but they want to come in when they want to come in. And so, they're going to try to compromise. So my favorite thing about this was the situations and what they do with them. And so actually, in hindsight, I think I liked it better than I did when I was listening to it. I have to confess, Betsy, I found them to be too much. And that guy, Pete Holmes, he does all these voices and he's even more manic than they are. But then I figured out part of the problem is I was listening to the podcast at 1.3 speed.
Oh, gosh.
And they're even more manic when it's that.
Yes,
so I slowed it
that's
down.
true.
But I tell you what, though, I have to confess, I had trouble. I was like,
No, well, and Jake's mom is very critical that they can be too much. She tells them that. And these were two earlier episodes, I'll say. And there is some of that. And it is, the riffing and the making fun is a part of their relationship. And so there are times where I'm like, okay, all right, let's get to the call. Come on.
And they do. I mean, I get the sense this is a hit. This podcast is a hit. Like
it has been a hit. And there was a moment when there was a feature on them in the New York Times because they tried to walk it back. Gareth is actually like a podcast godfather. Like he's one of the co-hosts of The Dollop, which is a history podcast. And it's been on for over a decade, right? One of the blueprints for podcasts, like My Favorite Murder and all that stuff. And so they were trying to kind of balance life and they were recording a ton of episodes the first season. And like, we need to walk it back. Maybe not so much, or maybe we're going to go on hiatus. And the fans wouldn't allow.
Oh.
So they were like, no, like you have to say.
Well, they're like getting someone a kidney if they haven't already. Yeah, somebody called in because her husband needed a kidney. And that was just part of the story. It was like a funnier story, but it was revealed that like he's been on this kidney waiting list forever. And they have managed to either get him a kidney or...
Yeah, I'm still catching up. I'm in May 2025. My sister recommended this podcast to me. And I will say this is the second time I've recommended an advice podcast to Ricardo. Because Ask Rana with Rana and Brian was also... So I think in this, I was like, what is it about advice podcasts? And I think some of it is with this show, like figuring out the niche of the questions you're getting. Like this is not a podcast where you call in and say like, my friend's drinking too much. I'm really worried about them. What should That is not the show, right? The more slightly ridiculous, like the people who've gotten, there was some like giant inflatable that this group of friends had purchased. They're like, how can we monetize this further to like, what more can we do with this giant inflatable? And so they come up with all these ideas. Or the guy who really there was a duck in his neighborhood who really liked him a lot and then started to like really like him a lot, would like try to land on him going to his car, would hang out with him. And then the weird duck penis comes out like a little spiral. And he's just like, how do I turn this duck off from the duck? And he named the duck Gandalf. How do I have Gandalf not like me anymore? And so they pitch, they riff and pitch all these ideas. The pitches are great. And then, but what I love is that they really do take it back to the person. Like, what are you actually going to do? Like, what are you really going to try here?
Right.
And then we want to follow up with you.
Cool. I mean, I get it. I mean, the thing about podcasts is often they go on forever, right? They're like for years and years and years. I like to know I finished something. So like an audiobook or like a limited podcast or a movie. Anyway, so thank you. That was We're Here to Help with Jake Johnson and Gareth Reynolds. Heart with hilarity.
Heart with hilarity. It's true.
All right. That's
it. So it's my turn. So let me really bring us home. Let me bring this down. Okay. And actually back to where we started in sort of a weird kind of way.
It is. I didn't think about that.
Isn't that interesting? Yes. So Greg assigned me, it's about a 35-minute documentary that is up on YouTube from 1982, probably filmed over the course of the late 70s into the 80s in DC, and it's called Brick by Brick. And it's directed by Shurikana Ayana. How would you say her name, Greg?
Something like that.
Yeah,
Aina.
Yeah. And so she's a documentary filmmaker, and she's talking about, and I love that Greg chose something in my backyard. So it's Washington, D.C., late 70s, early 80s. And they're going through whatever it is that, Providence was going through, right? So we want to turn these areas of the city into these places that are hotels, restaurants, we don't need all of these poor Black people all around all the time. DC, traditionally called Chocolate City, not as true demographically now as it used to be. This idea of displacement and how people through legal means and kind of pushing the legal means into illegal means, moving low-income people and kind of slowly moving them around. So like we already have, and you can hear in there, Foggy Bottom, Georgetown, like all these places, Northwest, like a lot of these places are already all white, incredibly white. And that they're slowly, moving everyone towards everyone who's Black to be in Southeast DC and Anacostia and, that sort of thing. So it's that push on subsidized housing, the privatization of housing, and the raising of rents for people with fixed incomes. And it's really quick. It's only 35 minutes. But the things that she does with how she edits the sound, how she kind of overlays one into the other, the interviews with people, kind of splicing in footage with children, and this woman who's in her apartment with her 3 children and her sister's getting ready to move in with her 2 children. And there's going to be 5 children and 2 adults living in this essentially one room kind of place. She speaks some of the biggest truths in the whole piece. But what I found so interesting was seeing it in this evolution of talking about human rights and this movement from not just civil rights to human rights, and connecting the experience of Black people in an American city and in other American cities, Detroit, Harlem, Watts, other places, to the international struggle of Black people. Talking about South Africa, talking about Nigeria.
Although it's happening to thousands of people.
And it's happening to millions of people when you think about the world.
There's been displacement in Harlem. There's been displacement in Southside Chicago. There's displacement in Black Bottom, in Detroit, in Philadelphia, in Watts, in Los Angeles, in South Bronx, in Brooklyn. All those are examples of displacement. On the international scene, we see the same thing in Soweto, in the Bantustans that have been developed in South Africa. In the Caribbean, in Latin America, we see the same displacement from northern Brazil to southern Brazil. The favelados, the shanties in Rio de Janeiro and in Sao Paulo.
You just move in here. And according to you people just move in here, think you're going to come and tell us exactly what to do, just like the man that come here to buy the place that we was living here 30 and 40 years ago. Are we not going to have it after we go through all this fight? We're not going to have it.
And I don't intend to go any place. I will be here.
When you go to Nairobi, you go to Kenya, and you see the shanties, you see the displacement of black people as these new highways and skyscrapers and international corporations move into Uhuru Boulevard and these places. You go to Abidjan and you see the French Riviera in Abidjan, in Ivory Coast, where Europeans, and right on the outskirts of it, you see poor black people that have been pushed out from where they live. In Washington, D.C., they're going to do the same thing. From Kennedy Center to Kennedy Stadium is going to be affluent, white, and black middle classes who can afford to live in that area, the technicians, the managers. All of Pennsylvania Avenue will be from Congress to the White House, would be like the Champs-Élysées, that you will develop hotels and restaurants that you can eat outside in the summertime, and that the president can walk down on Inauguration Day and have no problem that he would be surrounded by, masses of poor black people crying out for justice.
And you see the expansiveness where the movement went, from thinking about kind of that, things feel a little frozen, at least in DC, right? The murder of Dr. King, DC burns, all of that sort of, and then what's happening in the 1970s for black people in our nation's capital? She as a director is amazing. She has been a professor at Howard in film, and so has her spouse is also a documentary filmmaker and a filmmaker who's been, recognized internationally as well. Also worked at Howard here in the district as well. But it is, I think, in, watching this and knowing about how DC itself is shifting even now, the growth of PG County and all those pieces in the past, but thinking about the neighborhood that, like, they're talking like Seton in the places, the big place was kind of near Adams Morgan, like the big, like, kind of bar scene up northwest, but that it was this historically black neighborhood, and you're just taking the history away. A man who's like, I can't show my kids where the houses where I grew up because they're gone. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't own and there's no generational wealth, it all can just vanish. Greg, why did you pick this? Where did this come from? How? I feel very fortunate to have watched it, and it's, now been inhabiting all my thoughts. And I've now, of course, gone and had, because every time I watch a documentary, I'm sure that was many conversations with other people about it. To recommend, I'm talking with our American history teachers tonight over dinner. So where did this come from?
Yeah, so last year at the church that I'm still working at for right now, that I'll be leaving at the end of this weekend, I started an Oscars weekend movie marathon. Mm-hmm. And so last year we showed a bunch of movies from 2024 that were kind of off the beaten path that people may not have seen. And this year I was really trying to focus on creating a slate of movies for the marathon that were, how did we get to this place in history? Mm-hmm. And one of the ways that I wanted to communicate that is through a DVD that I was lucky enough to obtain from UCLA called the LA Rebellion. So UCLA they still have, you can still get this, but I think that you have to be like an education institution or something, like, so like a school or a church or something like that, where you can get a DVD and it's short films from black filmmakers that came through the UCLA school. So they have short films from Julie Dash. They have short films from all kinds of different black filmmakers who came up through the UCLA system. And they're sort of on the time span of like 1970 through like the early 2000s. And Brick by Brick was one of the movies that came up from the LA Rebellion DVD. And as soon as I saw it, I think I was about halfway through it, and my jaw was kind of on the floor as I was watching it. And I was thinking to myself, this is a documentary from 50 years ago that explains a little bit about the America that we live in now, which is that when you have someone as president of this country whose job it was to find real estate in New York, move poor people out of that real estate in order to make money off of that land and that property, that's exactly what's happening in DC in the 1970s. And it's right in Betsy's backyard. And so she can probably speak to this just as well as any of us, could. And so that was kind of the inspiration for it, is like, just so happened to find it, linked it to you, but also was trying to make this link between the stories, and you're so right, the stories that these people tell of the past, and that quote that you said was the one that really stood out to me. This idea of this guy saying, I can't show my kids where I grew up. That was such a painful line to hear from that movie, and to see where we are in 2026, there is a straight line from there to here, and it is built on the backs of building condos in poor people's neighborhoods that they will never be able to afford. And I think it's a real gift that we have documentaries like this.
Agreed.
To sort of show us like that arc of history. Yeah.
San Francisco drove out black folks. The Fillmore used to be a black neighborhood, have jazz clubs and all this stuff. It's interesting. Something Liz said earlier about the shopping mall deal, of how like a documentary is being made in the lifetime of us being adults kind of thing. I wasn't an adult in the early 70s, and I didn't know DC until I, went as an adult and visited friends and stuff. But it's interesting to see history being considered as history in times when we were alive. I mean, it's like, what does that mean for me? There's such places, and they mean so much to the history of people who grew up there, and to have them wiped off. Like, I can still picture being 7 years old and playing in the parking lot into the wee hours of, red light, green light, and, all, Simon Says and all this stuff. And it's like, it's part of who I am. And I actually don't know what I'm trying to say, except just to say, I think that to stay in a place that becomes yours, if you stay there for a long time, it's just who you are. And then to have that wiped out and become so cookie cutter, it's more than just a tragedy of geography and urban planning. It's a kind of a tragedy of the soul of a whole community.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right, Betsy, the way that you communicate it, right? This is about human rights. And somehow we have really warped our values in this culture, where it's like, I was leading a class today. We were talking about the Bhagavad Gita, of all things, right? As you do.
There you go.
And there's a section of the Bhagavad Gita where it's talking about selfless service, and this idea that is the highest ideal, right? Is to just give service to work without any expectation of reward. And I'm just like, that is the antithesis of America, which is to say that like, we are so warped the other way to think, well, you better get yours because I'm going to get mine, kind of mentality. And one of the things that we referenced is this idea of perhaps the deviant gene in our midst are the people who are obsessed with accumulating wealth, right? Because it may just be that the normal nature of human beings is to actually share what you have with others, right? One of the things that we reference is like the obsession that Elon Musk has with being a trillionaire. It's like once you're at the point of trillionaire, you are mentally unwell, right? But because we value the pursuit of money, we treat him like he's a hero, when in reality, it's the total opposite.
Of course, in this country, Black people have seen over and over and over again the whole reason their government is not looking out for them, or people are not looking out for them. And some of the betrayal of the Black lawyers and businessmen who are kind of being the front people for the exploitation that was happening, and that piece, and that it really is about then organizing. Like, we actually have so much more power as people. I've been thinking about this as the life of Jesse Jackson has been celebrated, and this idea of getting with other people who are, the downtrodden, the disinherited, and how do we say we're not going to take it anymore, and what do we do about that? And that, there was a march in Washington about homelessness and housing, and like 2,000 people showed up in the 80s. I didn't know that, and thinking about where Dr. King was going with that movement, the poor people's movement, and where we were going. There's a woman in the doc who's just like, I'm not embarrassed to say I'm poor, and that this system is not thinking about me. I'm so glad this film was made to capture this movement at this time with these voices. So thanks for recommending, Craig. I really appreciate it.
And as Christians, it should resonate with us, right? Like, we should hear scripture that says foxes have dens.
And that is, in essence, it is the whole point of this exercise, is that we get to open the door to something that we haven't spent time with, concepts, ideas, people through time, that either make us laugh, make us think, make us find something that we haven't been engaging with. And so again, I thank you all once again for participating in our grand experiment that we do on the podcast every year. So thank you, Ricardo, Liz, Craig. You can find us wherever you find all your podcasts, all that good stuff. But,
buy a t-shirt, buy a t-shirt.
And you can buy a t-shirt. You can do whatever. But yeah, have us there. It is.
Ricardo.
Ricardo's wearing his shirt.
I love it.
So cute.
It fits.
Unlike
other t-shirts I own, it fits.
It fits. There we go. See?
And it's cool.
Listen, friends, we are here. And we'd be curious to see what are your recs and recommendations out there. Share them with us. We would love to hear other things that we might be our blind spots that you find great joy and great thought in, to share with us and with your fellow Popping Collars listeners. Thank you to each of you. And with that, my friends, please keep your collars popped.
Pop, pop.
Yay.
That's your line.
Great job, guys.
Bravo.
I don't know how you guys do this till midnight.
Oh, I know. I'm exhausted. It's 9 o'clock.
Me too.
I know.
Me too. I gotta go to bed.